In a world brimming with complexity, few creatures embody harmony like the honeybee. With tireless precision, she dances from bloom to bloom, each motion guided by millennia upon millennia of instinct, each act in service to the whole. And then there are the beekeepers, watchful stewards of this ancient symbiosis. Part agri-scientist, part poet, they move along their hives with the efficiency of Moe, Larry, and Curly, tending to the bees' needs as best they can comprehend, and with the infrequency of a waterfall in the Sahara, sometimes running off, flapping and flailing like a penguin on a hot sidewalk. This is their journey.
Hey, welcome to Bee Love Beekeeping, presented by our great friends over at Man Lake. And we've got on the line with us today, Chris Hyatt. Was good enough to come back. We had him last year. And before we jump into everything, for those that don't know Chris, well, most people in beekeeping do know Chris, but Chris, say hello and give us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Sure. Chris Hyatt, past president of the American Honey Producers Association, and pretty much lifetime beekeeper. My dad started our company like 58 years ago, and I've got 4 other brothers along with me that we run our 18,000 hives between North Dakota, California, and Washington. Been part of the leadership for American Honey Producers for about 13 years, executive board, and then went through vice president, president, now past president. So I'm still on the board for a little while longer. No, it's just been fun learning and fun going to DC and helping serve, and just, met so many good friends, and it's just been a fun ride.
Well, we appreciate you. We need people like you that are willing to do that kind of legwork. We really, really appreciate it. And thanks for coming on the show again. You were on about a year ago, and we had just started to get some numbers on how bad the winter bee die-off was. I want to talk about that just a little bit first, and then we're going to get on some positive things talking about this year and some of that. But as a commercial beekeeper, with what happened last winter, give me an idea of where your company came out and other commercial beekeepers that you saw.
Well, that's a good question, Eric. Unfortunately for us, we were well below the national average at whatever, 62%. I had some of my friends that had some of their worst losses on record. Even like the famous Randy Oliver that writes for the American Bee Journal, him and his sons had high losses. So it just seems like no matter what you do, the varroa virus complex will get you eventually. And I know there's a lot of variables between the amitraz resistance and where you're running and how you manage your bees. But talking with Zach Lamas and all those guys that are involved in the sampling when all this happened last winter, people pointed to amitraz resistant mites at the beginning, but it's pretty complex, and a lot of it, is got to be associated with the viruses, maybe some pesticide pressure, but yeah, it's a complex mess, and sometimes you do the best you can, and still you'll have problems, even if you go to the sheds for the winter or if you're even outside for the winter. So there's just so many variables.
Well, I was hoping you'd have some kind of clear answer, but wow.
No, still kind of don't know. I mean, it just seems like there's some friends I put bees in here in the almonds for. It's like 3-4 years straight, great bees. And last year they didn't have any bees for me to put in. They had such high losses, and nothing had changed on their part. So yeah, it's tough to say.
Well, that's why I wondered how important the amitraz resistance was in this whole formula. Because a lot of people just don't do anything different, and unfortunately, sometimes we need to.
Right. Well, yeah, we mix it up, and a lot of the friends that I know, they all mix it up. They're using oxalic, they're using formic, they're using Apigard, other things. But still, the number one is amitraz to keep, especially in the fall, to have the quick knockdown. There's like Vetapharma's reformulating their treatment of amitraz to have more of a knockdown. And there's some new things coming online that we're excited about, but it's still by far amitraz is, what's carrying and keeping us in business.
Based on what happened this past year, now that we're in 2026, I can call it last year, did beekeepers do anything different going towards this fall and winter?
I do know that some of my friends didn't get their numbers back up to their high colony number because it was just too hard. And you can only split so many, you can only make so many nukes out of your good hives. Plus it's expensive to buy packages or buy other people's hives. Management style, I do know there's more mite treatments. I've heard more oxalic acid glycerin use multiple times during the year with the pads. Yeah, just trying to change it up and do more monitoring. Like the old Be Informed Partnership guys are out monitoring more, or employees are more than they had in the past. So I think those that had higher losses are even seeking, to have more control and more monitoring of the mites.
So what is the feeling? Is it optimistic, pessimistic, somewhere in between?
Well, the two conventions, the last two I went to, American Honey Producers and California State Beekeeping, it was kind of depressing, I guess, just because of the high losses, low honey price. There was some good news on the almond side that the price of almonds is going up. And I do know some guys are charging more for pollination because there was a shortage last year for pollination. That's kind of another funny topic, is that some of the almond growers are saying, hey, you had this record high loss, but we still are going to have this 2.6 billion pound crop, which is their estimate was way off. Some said 3 billion, 2.9 billion, which, yeah, they had beautiful weather last year. That was probably the most important factor, because I do know there was hives out there that were weaker than normal, but the beautiful weather, one hive per acre can do it. But on a rainy year with bad weather, you got to have multiple hives per acre. So it could have been way worse for the almond growers, but they had beautiful weather with probably weaker hives. And I know there was some orchards that were lacking hives, because I put some in for a friend, way past bloom, that had no bees in it. So I was putting the very last remainder of my hives just in the dead center of this big, huge 400 acre block of almonds. So they had something out there.
So it almost sounds like the growers are saying, hey, we had less bees and that was okay, so maybe we don't need as many bees in the future? Is that part of the economics?
Well, some are saying that, but the more seasoned, experienced growers know they had beautiful flight time. And if they didn't have that, they would have been in trouble. And that's why a lot of guys, it's a cheap insurance policy, if you want to put it that way, to have 2-3 hives per acre to make sure you have the hives needed to pollinate that crop.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Give me an idea of what's the buzz out there. How are people feeling?
Pretty good about this upcoming almond season. I did hear in North Dakota that there were some guys that still had high mites in September, end of September, couldn't quite get them under control. There's some consolidation in the business, some big beekeepers selling out. One went to private equity firm. So there's some consolidation, some other guys buying other guys out, which you do get usually, when prices are low and people want to get out and they're tired of it. There's some optimism, I think, with some of the things going with the dumping suit. There's things I can't talk about, attorney-client privilege, but there's some things in the works that'll hopefully help with the honey price getting it up this year. And then there's a big push. There's some new leadership at Subi, the biggest, the largest co-op in the United States, trying to promote American honey. And we have some packer buy-in, and it seems like kind of that's the next thing forward, is like, let's do, because the National Honey Board, by law, it's a checkoff program, and they can't promote U.S. honey. And now there's so much imports, most of the checkoff for that is foreign honey and foreign money anyways. But we're thinking that, yeah, it's time to put some money in and put a concerted, focused effort to the public to eat American honey. We've tried in different forms in the past, but it seems like there's a bigger push this time. And that was like a big open roundtable at the California State Beekeeping Convention that was talked about, and some good input there. So hopefully we'll have some things in the future to help on the honey front, honey price.
Yeah, I like it. The general public has no idea.
Right.
They They simply don't. And I know that you know that. And I was talking recently with Matt Malika, and we were talking about this too. And the general public, they don't know what's in their honey bunches of oats cereal, and they don't know what's in that plastic bear that they're getting at the grocery store. If they did, a lot of them would say, yeah, I want something better. I want the good stuff. I want it to be American so that I know what's in it. Or for Canada, Canadian, or whatever. This really applies all over the world. I love that you're doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we wish we could copy Canada and their labeling laws. Our labeling laws haven't been updated for whatever 20, 30 years. That USDA grade A doesn't mean anything. Everyone's looking the price on the shelf. They're not looking somewhere stamped on the side. There you see country of origin, Argentina, Vietnam, India, Brazil, whatever. We would love to have some teeth behind that. So it would be like USDA, or just say copy Canada. USA 1 would be USA honey, 95% or more. And if it's below that, it's USA 2 or just number 1 without the USA in it. So it can be more obvious. But we're optimistic that Greg Stubbe from Florida, we got that bill, the Honey Integrity Act, that we can get some things done to help right the ship, I guess you could say, get some legislation that'll help beekeepers and mainly get the honey price up. So that was kind of a big success for the honey producers this year, is getting that bill through and partnering with Senator Tuberville from Alabama. I mean, that was there's some good things, I guess you could say, on the horizon on testing, and hopefully FDA getting access to packers, what they're testing and looking. It's a little more oversight, basically, is what we're looking for. There's very few industries that want more federal oversight. Well, we're one of them. I mean, it's so many hundreds of millions of pounds of honey coming in, and we just don't think all that sticky stuff is legit. Some of it is, especially in the industrial market. We feel pretty confident stuff on the shelf, especially with the Costco recall a few years ago, that it wasn't the country they said it was, and they got sued. The consumer is safe, but like they've told us in the past, as long as anybody's dying, they don't care. Well, economic adulteration is still cheating and not good for the consumer, and hurts beekeepers, and which are mostly small-owned family farms that are pollinating most of our food that we eat. I mean, do we want to import more food from Mexico and Canada and other places, or do we want to grow our own food? I think COVID showed us we want to be more independent and not dependent on other countries, and that's keeping us in business is a national food security issue. So we keep pounding that drum.
Amen to all of that. People want to know what's in their food.
Yeah.
I think more than ever, because people are afraid of all the bad stuff going into food. And if I go to the store and buy something that says honey, it should be honey. It shouldn't have high fructose corn syrup or water or any whatever else might be in it. It should be honey. But people don't realize that that's not what they're getting. So if you could do some kind of a national campaign that would lift that awareness, that would be awesome. Tell me a little bit more about the legislation. You mentioned a couple of points, but dive a little deeper into that.
Well, mainly it's like I'm saying, it would be the oversight, FDA oversight. The packers, they would have access to what the packers are already testing, that honey. They would have access to those reports.
It may seem early, but right now is a great time to order your live bees for 2026 because they do sell out, and because Man Lake is offering a discount for Beloved Podcast listeners. Wait, what? I know you're saying live bees, they never go on sale. Well, they are now. Click on over to Man Lake, order your bees any variety, nukes or packages, and anything in the beginner essentials category. And when you check out, use the code GETSTARTEDINBEES. It's down in the show notes, so you don't have to remember, for a discount on everything. So get your orders in early and save.
Part of the problem we're seeing is that a lot of the packers are getting their results, and it's Germany, to be honest. There's like basically no American lab now. There used to be one at the University of Missouri, and that one closed down. And then a lot of friends would ask, and colleagues, and they would send their honey to British Columbia to a lab. And evidently he's slowing down and getting away from that. So by far, almost all the honey that's consumed part of it is even the foreign hive coming in is going to Germany. And there are partial test results coming back and not the full spectrum, especially on NMR. And I don't want to get too deep into high resolution mass spec and all this other testing, but there's partial test results coming back. And so if we can get a little bit of oversight, FDA, and have access to those records, we feel like that would in itself clean up a lot of the foreign junk from coming in. Of course, the U.S. has some of their own testing, but they are so overwhelmed. The last time we talked to them, actually, they came out this summer to North Dakota, one of our board members, and we spent a half day with them, went to the bee yard, showed them the extract plant, and they're just seeing a lot of fraud coming from China. And they had some questions. They wanted to see how we syruped, how we feed bees, how we extract, etc. And they recently had a bust, a little country, Myanmar. I think it was Myanmar, or was it Taiwan? Oh man, I can't remember. They had a bunch of syrup from China, and they asked customs to help test it, and they helped and had a pretty good sized bust in Asia. We just want we wanted a fair playing field, and part of that bill, there's no labeling per se on it. That would be step number 2, but just enforcement. That's probably the biggest part of the whole bill.
Well, and to me, enforcement should be not just saying, this isn't what you say it is, so we're sending it back to Taiwan now or Vietnam or wherever, but this is not what you say it is, so it's getting dumped, or you're getting a huge fine or something. Otherwise, they're just going to take it back, stick a new label on it, and it comes right back. Isn't that the case?
Right. No, it doesn't go back. It just gets relabeled here as like syrup and stays here. And we've asked for destruction of the product, but I guess for the most part, they say that's a non-starter for them, that we have to meet in the middle. So, I mean, Customs has had cases in Chicago with the big honey gate that they've gone to the dump and they took pictures of them dumping the honey in the dump. But I mean, just at least getting it out of the market out of the honey side, it goes into cattle feed, whatever. But yeah, we're still working on the details on that.
And it sounds like testing is a big deal. If things have to be sent all the way to Germany to get tested, that is not fast enough.
No, I mean, and it was a big point of discussion at Apimondia in Copenhagen that I went to in September. Just what tests, and there's some unproven tests on the whole metagenomics and DNA barcoding stuff. A lot of that goes over my head, but some of that's unproven, and you got to stay with stuff that's proven. And the European Union is pretty aligned with the United States, and they talk to each other. But the testing, it's a huge point of discussion, and you always have to stay in front of the fraudsters, right? So these designer syrups are designed to cheat the test. So you're always trying to improve and get better and better.
Man. All right. What else economically needs to happen?
Well, I mean, along with agriculture, we're suffering with low prices. I mean, the honey price is one of them. We finally got some relief this year. A lot of that probably is the Trump administration. The AEWR for our H-2A visa workers, it went down for the first time in over a decade or more, maybe 15 years. I didn't look it up, and that's finally brought some relief, because we're just like all the farmers I talked to in North Dakota, South Dakota. Corn, soy, wheat, really low producer prices, but everything else stays up. I mean, when you go to the grocery store, fertilizer's still up, fuel is still up, labor is record high. So all these things are up, but we're getting a really 20-year-old price. So that AEWR will help us to a small degree on the labor side, because in the past, our brand new workers that would come in would be making whatever, $19.70 or $20 an hour. You're trying to have a differential between your best guys that have been with you 5, 10, 15, 20 years and guys that can drive forklift, trucks, know bees better than other guys. But the gap was, it was artificially narrowed because of the high AEWR. So the alternative wage rate. So it's now we can get back to that bigger range for your best guys that know the BRs, better beekeepers, can unload trucks, drive forklift, and your rookies can go back lower. So that'll help us, just the bottom line. So that was probably a good win this year. And then honestly, economic wise, we had a really big win, ELAP, Eric Silva, our lobbyist for honey producers. That was also in the big, beautiful bill. some of the largest producers were not eligible if your income was above whatever 900,000. So now with that waiver, everybody can collect ELAP, which is fair. So, I mean, we probably will be approaching 100 million probably this year, ELAP payments. So that's helping people stay in business with these low honey prices and these huge hive losses. So that was a big win on the ELAP side.
Well, we need the commercial beekeepers, plain and simple. It's a huge part of our economy, our food supply, everything else. So, someone recently made a comment to me that I thought was very unfair and called commercial beekeepers just livestock handlers. And I said, maybe some are, but I also know some guys like Chris that I really think love honeybees and love what they do. Give me an idea of where you come from on all this.
Yeah, I mean, I have a passion for it and I see the importance of it, of the food supply and being an important cog in the wheel to keep things going. But to some degree, yeah, we are livestock handlers, I guess you could say, but there's a lot more. I mean, it's not A plus B equals C, like, with the chicken, you have this much input, blah, blah, blah. Beekeeping is an art. It's so hard. I mean, there's experience of a lot of private equity buying beekeepers or almond growers buying beekeeping outfits and it being ran into the ground and bankrupt in 2-3 years. So new beekeepers need to apprentice and learn. It's a trade and it's a beautiful trade, but it definitely takes years to master. And I'm still not there yet. You look at some of these guys that I know that have ran bees for 40, 50 years and still have losses as many as they do. It's a lot of work. And even more, I had a good friend in Eastern Washington I grew up in. He was a farmer and a rancher. And he told my dad one time, that you beekeepers even put the dairymen to shame the way the hours you're working, and my dad grew up milking cows because it's late night hours moving bees and you got to work all day, get the bees ready to go into the next pollination set or pulling honey or run out of supers and there's not enough hours in the day. So yes, we're livestock, but it's more beautiful and it's a lot more nuanced, I guess, than just handling a cow or something. We're strategically moving the hives where we think they'll do the best and timing, pulling them out of places and into places in the right time. So, and just managing and trying to keep, these beautiful creatures alive. So,
and they smell better than cows.
Yeah, that's true. I like the smell of honey. Pulling honey, though, when you have to use Vigo, of course, a lot of people don't like that.
Do you have any advice for hobby beekeepers out there?
Always just don't walk away from it. I just hear story after story of friends of mine have a couple hives that just put it in the backyard and leave it alone. You got to take care of it. You got to check it. You got to feed it. You got to medicate it. All these things. I mean, I was telling hobbyists the other day about pollen patties. They didn't know about pollen patties. And there's a lot of things to do, a lot of inputs to keep these hives healthy and alive, especially during the winter, that they had no idea. So I would just say, any hobbyist, you got to stay on top of it. Basically, you got to visit that thing at least once a month and work it, pull honey, replace a queen, whatever it is.
Do your mite checks.
Yep, mite checks. Yep.
I have friends who have casually gotten into it like what you've explained. And they either quit or they learn, hey, yeah, I do love these bees. I need to get busy and learn a lot. I have other neighbors around here with horses. I think you have to learn every bit as much, if not more, about bees as if you had horses.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Honestly, I think it's harder because there's a lot more proven, and you can control the environment more, like the horse in a pasture, where bees, they're flying 2, 3, 4 miles, picking up you don't know what from a field that got sprayed or someone's house that sprayed something it's way more of a wild card. There's so many more uncertainties. The chickens and turkeys, they're all in that house and it's biocontrolled. No one goes in except for the workers and blah, blah, blah. Honeybees are flying dust mops that fly so many miles. Don't know where they're getting water from. And I get that every drought year. I'll put out a brand new barrel of water, 55 gallons next to the hive, and they'll still fly a mile to someone's house to a dirty cattle trough. And I'm like, what are you doing that for?
Or to a chlorinated swimming pool.
Yeah, that's true.
We have all experienced that. They're goofy. I think that's part of why we love them.
Yep.
All right. You have a new wild and crazy story for us since last time?
Since last time?
I don't remember what yours was last time. So if you repeat it, I won't even know the difference. But every beekeeper has funny stories. Let's hear one.
Okay, July. It's a sad story. It's a good story and a sad story. So I have a bee yard right on the Montana North Dakota state line, literally like quarter mile. And as you look over to Montana, it's all nothing but grass. There's nothing planted. So it's only good on a clover year, which happens. That area is only like every 3-4 years, 5 years, you might get clover. Anyways, my son and I and one of my best guys, Diego, we're pulling honey. Of course, a thunderstorms comes through, and that first clap of lightning, we're halfway pulling the honey. We just leave the gas boards on, like, hey, let's get in the truck. So we wait 10 minutes, and it blows through. Didn't rain too much. We get out, and the honey was really heavy, beautiful. We started the season, probably 10th of July, 12th of July. It was just fun. I love working with my only son, pulling honey. We get home, and I have a biologist buddy in North Dakota that he's a good bird watcher, good birder, that he's the number one like fish and game, what do you call that? Game bird guy, right? So he's on the little local Bismarck station. And right by my bee yard, and I knew this, there's a lek for sage grouse. You know what a lek is, Eric? That's where they dance. So for thousands of years, the males go and dance for the females, and and that's how you get new little sage grouse.
So the lek is where they dance?
They dance every year at that same spot, the males, and the females will go choose the male. And if you ever seen pictures of sage grouse or prairie chicken, they fluff up their feathers and they have the big like air sac. And it's really pretty iconic species of the sagebrush west, right?
I've seen the dance. I just didn't know they went to a grouse disco to do it.
Yep. The same spot every year, usually a little dirty, grassy mound. So the females can see them, and they boom loud. Anyways. So this was the very last lek in North Dakota that they knew that sage grouse were dancing. And this past April, they had 0 sage grouse. So they think, well, that's it for sage grouse in the state of North Dakota. I've seen probably 2, 3 in my lifetime, because they're just right in that corner in the Badlands, some into South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana. But anyways, just because, habitat has gone away. So that was kind of my point. I told the story at the California meeting, is that it's habitat loss, and we're never going to get it back. And it's kind of sad that, our honey production's down because there's so much corn and soy planted and the grasslands are going away. And we really need conservation. And the CRP acres, the conservation reserve, where they're paid not to farm, those are going away. And so we need like a renaissance of protected acreage that have cover crops on them, and just not to help bees, but to help all other species, insects and birds and mammals. So anyways, I guess that wasn't a crazy story with the lightning, but it ended up being a sad story, but a lesson in it, I guess. We need good habitat.
Yeah, more and more habitat. There are a couple of nonprofit groups out there that are trying to help with that a little bit, and we wish them well. We need a ton more.
Oh yeah.
They're getting at a few hundred or a few at the most 1,000 acres a year, and we need millions of acres, it sounds like. The honeybees are sort of the canary in the coal mine too.
Yeah.
If they're suffering, you can bet the grouse and other things that you don't even see are having some of the same problems. Hey, I won't keep you too much longer, but I do have one question that somebody asked me this morning, and I thought I had a brilliant answer for, but it probably wasn't. That is, out here in the western part of the United States, we have had a long, warm fall. Here in the mountains of Utah, we don't even have winter yet. How is that affecting the bees? And if it's hard on them, what can we do to help?
Well, feed, number one. We saw the same thing in North Dakota this fall. We usually have 440, 456 on a load, 432. A lot of them came down at 480, 512. So they'd eaten a lot of that stores we left for them because it was way above average, well into November. There was some 50s, a few 60s, usually down into the 20s and 30s. And so we've had to feed this winter a lot more than we have in the past. I would get out if I was, if you're in Utah or whatever in the Mountain West and you don't want your hive to starve, definitely go feed them because they'll be out flying. Even though there's nothing for them to do, they'll just use up They're just, instead of hibernating and staying in that nice cluster, they're out flying, using their calories and burning it up. So yeah, feed them.
Well, and that's what we see. We've had a lot of days that it's in the mid to high 50s, even some low 60s. And this isn't just Utah. I've spoken with people in Montana and Colorado and a bunch of other states around here. And the bees are flying around and they're coming back with nada.
Yep.
So
they're just wasting it. Yeah.
They're not only burning through their reserves, but I hope they're not wearing themselves out too much. Winter bees aren't really meant to be doing that, are they?
Nope, they aren't. And so that's why you might have a smaller cluster coming out of winter. And yeah, my main concern is just don't let them starve. You're going to have to probably do more protein patties and more corn syrup to feed them.
Feed. All right. Any other great wisdom you want to leave with us, Chris?
No, be ready. We might have some letters we want from different states for our congressmen when we are ready to move the Honey Integrity Act forwards. But we'll get the word out. But yeah, we might need some grassroots supports. So
that's something everybody can do, is support those kinds of things. Write the letters when they come up. It's the little things like that we can jump in and do. Hey, Chris, I really appreciate it.
Oh, Eric, I was going to say one thing. On that Beltsville, Maryland lab, the Trump administration, that's one bad thing they've done. They want to close it down. And we've got pretty good support and a lot of letters in, and I've been on a bunch of the calls, trying to keep it open, because anytime you close a lab, less than half the people go relocate because they don't want to move. So that's our flagship bee lab, and they do the National Disease Survey. It's important. So anyways, I just want to kudos to those that wrote letters and helped on. We don't know yet, but yeah, on the Beltsville lab.
Hopefully it'll still be there.
Yeah, hope so.
All right. Chris, I appreciate it. I'd love to have you back from time to time. Sorry I missed you at Epimondia. If I knew you were there, we could have gotten together.
Yeah, sorry. I got that from a lot of people. I goofed off a couple of days too, because you're in a new country. You got to go see it.
And with 8,000 to 10,000 people in that convention center, there's no way you're going to accidentally, or almost no way, go, oh, yeah, there's Chris over there.
Yep.
Anyway, thanks. Appreciate your time.
Okay. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks for joining us on Bee Love Beekeeping, presented by Man Lake. If you like this content, I hope you'll share it with a friend. Follow and subscribe to this podcast, and even sign up for our newsletter at belovebeekeeping.com. Also, just a shout out to Vita Bee Health for their support. We appreciate them. Vita's Varroa control range of products includes Apistan, Apigard, and now Varoxan, extended release oxalic acid strips. Thanks, guys. And remember, if you're not just in it for the honey or the money, you're in it for the love. See you next week.